are back. The land of 10,000 tears went away when the Vikings got good. Now we're back talking about our favorite team and our least favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings. With us, we have Isaac, Justin, and of course myself, the self-entitled draft expert, Mitch. Welcome, everyone. This is the first episode of the Offseason.
Let's go.
Guys,
Let's
how are you
do that.
feeling? We are back.
We are back because we've got more tears to shed.
It's been a few years. Didn't shed
And a
too
couple
many
laughs.
tears this year.
That is true.
Shed a lot of happy tears and then quite a few sad tears on the way home
Yeah.
after that playoff loss. A lot of ice cream.
But we're finally out of the red in terms of cap space.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing coming into today. And tomorrow starts the first day of the new league year, so things should really get rolling.
Today is Tuesday, March 14th, as we are filming, and all the teams in the NFL are above the cap and are available to play in 2023, sorry. Jeez.
Well,
Hopefully in 2024.
Yeah, we'll
salary
see
cap
about
is a
the
myth.
Washington Commanders.
Oh, they'll play. They just won't have an owner. Or it'll be Jeffrey Bezos.
The Washington Amazoners.
Amazonians.
The Packers.
They should really be the Packers, yeah. All
right,
right.
What are
Isaac.
we doing first here, Isaac?
We're gonna do a little free agency update. See, now we're a little late to a couple of these, but a couple of them were breaking news just minutes ago. We'll start with the breaking news. The Vikings just re-signed the man, the myth, the legend, Gregory the Leggery, to a. Oh, I forgot to write it down. They didn't have the length of the contract, but they are re-signing our kicker, Greg Joseph, after a very shaky season of extra points. But also
And
Shaky
Vikings
season of extra
long.
points, but he had the most game-winning field goals in the NFL last year, so that was a bright spot for him. But I get what you're saying on the extra point
Yeah,
part of
the
it.
extra points might have helped us not need those.
But we're
game-winning
going
picks, but-
forward with our our special teams specialty players with our keeping our punter, kicker, and our all-pro long snapper.
Yep, that was
We also
congrats
did
Andrew
just
DePaulo
re-sign.
on
Yep.
the largest long snapping contract of all time. Long
Checks
snappers making over $1 million in the NFL now. Congrats, all
I
pro.
love when the
Andrew
Vikings set
DePaulo.
new contract records. It's
Mhm.
so fun.
Yeah, we're paying a long snapper over $1 million. We're paying our fullback a couple $1 million.
Mhm.
A fullback that plays twice a game. I love it.
And now we'll see about Chris Boyd because he's still a free agent, our captain of special teams. So,
Yeah, we might not see him
no,
back.
he will not be back on the team.
I think he
Full
wants to play a
production.
little cornerback, and I don't want him ever playing cornerback on our team ever again.
No. Liability is the word.
Ooh.
How about some of our new guys, Isaac?
New guys, we have two of them so far. The highlight of first day of the legal tampering period, the Vikings signed tight end Josh Oliver to a 3-year, $21 million deal. I believe a $10 million is guaranteed. Something like that. A lot of incentives. Top 2 PFF ranked blocker among tight ends, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, his cap hit for 2023 is going to be $3.5 million.
Yeah, a lot of the contracts we'll see them dishing out are going to be pushed back to 2024, where we have $100 million of cap space.
And I think his contract is kind of a steal because I guarantee we haven't seen the insides on his contract. There are probably a lot of incentives to get him up to that 15 million, I think, is what his total contract is. A lot of them's probably going to be catches, Pro Bowl, playoff appearances, etc. So I really can't see him hitting receptions or Pro Bowl, but
yeah, he has a $3.5 million cap hit this year, $7.2 million next year, and $10.37 million in 2025. It's basically a 2-year deal worth $13 million.
The only scary thing about his contract and the other guy we signed, which you'll touch on next, Isaac, but is
Oh yeah.
Kwesi seems to be not doing too bad, but he's going for two people we've signed have big injury histories, I've noticed. And
Yeah,
that is kind of scary if you think about it, but we could cash in if they do well, if they stay healthy.
Yeah, Josh Oliver, third round pick by the Jaguars, traded to the Ravens for basically nothing because of some injuries, and he was their big blocking tight end because Mark Andrews is just a big wide receiver. He's not really, I mean, he could throw some blocks, but you don't have a guy that talented throwing blocks. Just like we don't want TJ Hawkinson throwing blocks, we want to slide him out to that slot spot, basically being our wide receiver too. Sorry, KJ.
A lot of this falls underneath that Travis Kelce kind of scheme fit that everyone's trying to go for.
Yeah. And then Justin obviously touched on our other addition, pass rusher, Marcus Davenport. Is he going to play edge, outside linebacker? Who knows? Depends on the mood Brian Flores is each week. His is more interesting, a 1 year, $13 million prove it deal. He's a real rotational player from the Saints. But
first round pick. So
yeah, I mean, also has some injury history. Only a half sack this last year, but playing in rotation. But if you go back and look at his win percentage on pass rushing, it's pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, 13.6%.
I think in 2020 or 2021, he had like 9 sacks or something like that. So that was a little bright spot. But if he stays healthy, I think he'll be good.
In his
and
5 years,
what that basically tells me is Zadarius is going to be on the move. And with today's moves that were made and we're going to touch on, I think that the Vikings have the leverage now that they need to say, we're going to trade you for sure rather than cut you, because we are over the cap and we can afford him. So if he doesn't want to go, I mean, I think he still wants to play, right? Even though he requested a trade, he wants to play football. So
Zadarius is playing, yeah. He apparently it's more of a contract thing. I think he wants an extension. Which, I mean, even though the second half of the season he wasn't getting those sacks, it's kind of like with the Marcus Davenport thing where he's winning those. He's winning at the line. He's just not getting
a lot of pressure fast enough. Yeah.
And he was hurt most of the season.
Yeah.
His sack numbers went down the second half of the year, but his pressures never really went down. So he was still there, just didn't get sack numbers.
But apparently rumors that he might end up a Jaguar by the end of the week. Would not hate that. They've got a lot of draft capital. Could maybe snag it. I don't want to say a third round pick, but I do want to say a third round pick.
Third, couple fourths, fifth, whatever. I just want his contract out the books, and obviously with Davenport signing, we prefer to put the young buck in rather than, and from what I've heard is Davenport is healthy as of today. So
and it'd be good to get some of those trades for picks because we'd clear cap space, and also we're very low on picks this year, so it'd be good to build up.
And who knows?
Picks while we're also getting some more cap space. At the same time.
How crazy Kwesi will get with some draft picks. Last year we just saw him trading back and forth, loading up on draft picks to trade up again. Who knows if maybe he'll deal some guys to try to trade up in the first. You never know.
I'd predict probably like 80% chance of trading back unless we make some moves prior to the draft to get some more picks.
Yeah. I think it'll come down to who's available at 23, but
that's also true.
There's so many cornerbacks that I feel like they view a lot of them as the same. If there's multiple guys at 23, they'll trade back to the higher 20s and still get one of the guys they want.
I might be jumping the gun here. I don't know if you had this schedule later, but I've seen on most of the big named mock drafts. I think his name is Deonte Banks, cornerback from Maryland. It's been kind of the consensus pick there.
That's what I've been seeing. I did not throw it in my little plan here where thought we get more into mock draft season once we've settled into free agency here and we have an established need.
Yeah, there's still a lot that has to happen before then.
Yeah, this free agency market right now that we haven't even touched on is interesting. This might be the most interesting free agency period we've ever seen in NFL history, with these giant contracts that are coming out early, kind of setting the market standard. I think for these veteran players that are still in the market, um, their expectations are going to be really deflated here in the next coming days, with teams just not willing to dish out as much money to veteran players at linebacker, cornerback, running back, especially wide receiver, even. So, I
And it's
think,
all headlined by our enemy in to the east of us, A-Rod.
yeah, I think
Talks about going to the
once he
Jets.
makes his announcement on McAfee tomorrow,
Pat
that
McAfee at noon.
yeah, I think that's going to unlock the market a little bit more for all these teams kind of sitting and waiting.
Yeah, I will point out that surprisingly, we finally had our first wide receiver signed today, which was Allen Lazard with the
Yeah.
Jets.
The Jets.
Part of Aaron Rodgers' wish
Per
list.
request of Aaron Rodgers, yeah.
But
the new league year starts at, I think, 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. tomorrow. And
usually 3 p.m.
everything
Central
I've
Time,
seen
all
says
their stuff is.
They think Aaron Rodgers will make his decision before then. So you're probably right, Mitch, that he might at least announce it or say something to the fact on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow at noon, which
Tends
is a
to be
couple
what he
hours
does.
before that league's year begins.
Yeah.
Yeah. But going back to the topic of wide receivers, Odell Beckham Jr. A lot of Vikings players are trying to recruit him via Twitter.
He's good. I think he's
Making the
friends with
rounds.
JJ.
He loves JJ, big LSU guy. He's also on Aaron Rodgers' wish list, but they are loaded at wide receiver currently. I don't see why they dish out a lot of money to Odell. I can understand the need for the Vikings, but at the same time, Odell's pushing $20 million a year, which
Yeah, for guys and
for a
played in
guy
2
that
years.
tore his second ACL.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that we went out there and watched his workout, but I think we're probably on the lower end of the spectrum in terms of the most likely team to sign him. Just because of his number, what we've already got our star wide receiver, and we can go other directions with that without having it be so expensive.
Yeah. And I think that the NFL kind of is aware of, you can draft these young kids coming out of college, and they're more NFL ready now than they've ever been. So I think that more colleges are moving away from those option offenses and these check downs and RPOs. It's more of a pro style, as you said, Isaac. And I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of these 30-year-old wide receivers retiring because simply the contracts that they're asking for, no one's going to want to pay them. So.
I think that's why we haven't seen any JJ extension talks come up, because you're about to see, after a couple of years of wide receivers getting ridiculous money, the NFL, the owners and GMs are kind of putting their foot down and saying, hey, there's too many of you guys to be demanding this type of money.
Yeah, and I think obviously JJ is going to set the new mark for wide receivers.
Oh, he will.
It's just going to be more reasonable. And yeah, as he should. He's the best young wide receiver in the NFL right now. So,
yeah. I mean, it's not like quarterbacks who are starting to push $45 million a year here. Because an elite, even just a solid quarterback, is hard to come by.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, you can have your opinions of Kirk Cousins as how far we'll go, but the money we pay him is slowly looking better and better compared to a lot of these contracts, like Daniel Jones, 15 passing touchdowns and $40 million a year now. But we'll see what happens. But speaking of big contracts, how do you guys feel about Garrett Bradbury? Didn't seem like the Vikings were pushing for a replacement too hard, and honestly got a pretty cheap deal on Bradbury, 3-year, $15.75 million.
Yeah, I think if we want to focus on offensive line, it'd be that right guard position because I think Ingram was pretty rough last year, and Bradbury does a lot better when he's got good guards around him. So I think his low points come from bad guard play.
Yeah.
So focusing on improving our right guard position would probably be best. So I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Ezra Cleveland take a step this year. I mean, he's used to playing tackle. We've pushed him into a guard position for 2 years now, fully starting.
I mean,
Ingram,
were we even happy with how he played 2 years ago? I think there was questions
I
whether
don't think we
he
were.
would be a scheme fit, and Kevin O'Connell kind of shifted his game plan around to fit Cleveland's strength inside, and that's where you saw the improvement. I'm not too skeptical on Ingram. He has the ability. It's just I think starting him as a rookie last year, you definitely saw the cracks in the armor. Give him an off season to get more weight on, get more muscle, and I don't think he'll be bullied as much. And of course, I think our heavenly Father Kevin O'Connell will, or our heavenly Father, that's what it's called.
There you go.
Will fit the scheme to his strengths.
I'm just so glad we finally are set at tackle on both sides. I feel like it's been forever since we've been safe on the outside. And to finally have offensive line not be one of the worst in the NFL every single year is quite encouraging.
Yeah, and also you can tip your cap to Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell to actually keep an offensive line together. I mean, signing Bradbury is much more than the 9th best center, which PFF rated him last year. It's you have that stability, you have that continuity within the offensive line room, and I think it's just gonna pay dividends for us next year.
You saw when Bradbury got hurt that one game how terribly Kirk Cousins connected with that new center, and that was probably just because that center sucked. I can't remember.
That was our third string center. That's why.
Yeah, but still, it matters.
Later, I think.
Communication-wise, it matters.
Yeah.
I mean, they're also in Green Bay. It was loud as heck. All right. We've kind of lingered on free agency here. We've touched on cornerbacks a little bit. We still have Duke Shelley out there.
I've heard rumors, and Mitch, you were saying this was one of your top free agents on the market still. But Byron Murphy was rumored to be talking with the Vikings. Pretty deep talks recently, I've heard. Nothing's happened there yet with it, but that would be a good signing. And I know, Mitch, you were kind of talking highly of him as well.
Yeah, 2nd round pick out of
another Cardinal.
He played for Washington. He was a day one starter his rookie year. Injury bug lingered, and last year he was out most of the year. 25 years old still, so he's got a lot of tread left on his tire, and he's proven himself when healthy to be a solid corner. And you can't hate bringing in a young guy with potential. So I think it's a perfect fit. You have a couple other guys that are kind of in that market as well, with like Rock Ya-Sin and Trey Flowers. Definitely don't want to see Chandon Sullivan back. So I mean,
yeah, I think
there's a lot of options out there, and you can see that. I mean, some of the older corners got signed, like Patrick Peterson. Thanks for your service, but he wasn't exactly what we thought he would be when we first signed him. He was a solid corner option, but you could see the age was getting to him, and he was getting beat. Had some injuries as well, so that just comes with age.
Though, to be honest, I agree with what you're saying, but I feel like if there's any year to have Patrick Peterson on our team, it would be this coming year. If we were to draft maybe a couple rookie cornerbacks, since this draft class has a ton of them, to have that veteran presence teach these young rookies, it would be a good year to have them. I understand why we don't, but
yeah,
he probably would have been more beneficial this year than last year, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, you still have I mean, last year's draft was kind of a fart in the wind, in my opinion. We really haven't seen any of the players
We got
thrive.
unlucky, yeah.
But you do have a ton of potential. I mean, Brian Asamoah looks like he's gonna be a day one starter. We saw flashes last year of his potential, and it was awesome. So it's kind of moving towards that. The linebacker position, especially, is that athletic. You know, you can put him out into the flats and have him cover people man on man, especially tight ends. With this new generation of tight ends, we are seeing less blocking, more pass receiving. So I think that this last year's draft class, you're going to see them turn around a lot more, especially with like Lewis Seen, Andrew Booth Jr. We still have on the roster too. So it's like we haven't really seen any of these guys step onto the field, and when they did, they got hurt. So I mean,
it's true.
Potential. It's potential, and yes, I think a veteran presence would be a very big benefit. But I just don't think it made sense to keep Patrick Peterson around, especially
Not
with
for the
his
price
cap
that we
hit.
have had to pay.
Yeah.
I agree,
Good
especially
for
with
him.
our cap space bind.
Speaking of
But
cap,
hey, we reworking Kirk sure helped with that though.
there you go. Traded $16 million of cap space, converting his $20 million roster bonus into a signing bonus spread out over a few years.
Yep. I that was the one contract I wasn't. I mean, I saw you see the 16 million funnel into the cap situation, but he has void years on his contract. He has 2 void years, and we're gonna be if we move on next year from Kirk Cousins, he still has like I think a $28 million cap hit next year, even if he's not playing for the team. So there is dead cap there.
You got to pray you're paying a rookie contract at that point, which
yeah,
I just solved with the mock draft I did right now. A quick little 2-round mock draft. If you want me to fill you in on that, I was a little.
I think mock drafts will be later on.
I know.
I think this year's quarterback class is going to be very, very top heavy. So,
what I've noticed about the mock drafts, and this isn't a knock on PFF, I know there's a lot going on yet, but they've got a lot of updating to do in their team needs department. So I think those mock drafts are pretty inaccurate right now.
Yeah.
Well, Anthony
at least the simulated ones.
Overall, dear Lord.
So yeah, once that gets updated, we'll definitely throw in a bunch of mock drafts here and get our thoughts, and it'll be a little bit more accurate.
For sure.
After this free agency crazy time.
And one thing I will say about these young quarterbacks, and then we can move on, is yes, you can put up all these good, combine records and this data that draft moguls are going to look at and say, "Oh my God, Anthony Richardson! Oh my God, Bryce Young." When he gets to his pro day, you got to look at game film, and I think that we've already seen Will Levis kind of take a hit with his draft stock. He didn't have a great pro day, and he didn't have a good combine, and there's a lot of hit and miss, and you got to look at game film. That's all I'll say. Anthony Richardson did not have a good second half of his year, so
some accuracy problems out there.
Yeah, there's issues, and I think we'll find out here in the next couple weeks what really people are thinking about these players. So
yeah, because I mean, if the plan is to move on from Kirk and he's going to have this void year cap hit, that makes you think that we got to go quarterback in the draft. But it's tough to say what quarterback we could possibly get because they're all going to be gone by the time we're up to pick, and then the remaining ones we'd be reaching big time if we went for anyone before like the 4th round or something.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough situation to be in quarterback wise for the Vikings.
And in my opinion, you don't want to pay. I mean, Kirk Cousins. We'll get into it later. I'm not going to touch on it right now.
All right, if you're gonna talk about Kirk, yeah, go ahead, talk about Kirk. All right. So Justin, what do you think of the idea of trading Dalvin Cook?
He's a huge Kirk Cousins fan. He wants to give him the Pat Mahomes deal.
I'm all for it.
$500 million for a decade.
Honestly, I'd do it. Pay him till he's 46. I'm in. He's the next Tom Brady. I believe it.
All right, what's next on the docket, Isaac?
All right. Well, we've been touching on where's my cap space going? We talked about Kirk restructure. We've touched the JJ extension. I think that's coming down the line here. We'll probably see it, and then we'll see rumors within the next few weeks. I doubt we see an actual extension here anytime soon. I got to see how that wide receiver market plays out. TJ Hawkinson extension now. That's where it gets interesting, especially with signing Josh Oliver, who obviously is not going to be a big pass catcher. It's more, we're basically paying him to be an O lineman that can catch a pass here and there.
I mean, kind of like Johnny Munt. So I mean, it's
I think
it's an upgrade from Johnny Munt.
I think months time is over.
He's a free agent, so.
I didn't even realize that. I thought he had a year left. Possible restructures. I mean, there's still Brian O'Neill and Harrison Smith. I know they've been talking to Harrison Smith. I haven't seen anyone touch on the Brian O'Neill restructure. They could be keeping that super quiet. They could be leaving it alone unless they need to.
Situation. I think Brian O'Neill, it will be a, convert it to a signing bonus and have it impact next year's salary cap.
I mean, our cap space next 2 years is pretty
fine.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, just the general cap, the amount of cap we get next year for all NFL teams grows by quite a bit.
So they're projecting it to
that factors into it, but we're definitely in a good place going forward.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about how Kirk's void years he might even be paid if he's not here, but that hardly even makes a dent in what you're looking at. But granted, there's still a lot to happen that's going to go into that, but it's not huge in comparison to the cap space we have for next year. So it really helps us this year doing that.
Yeah, and you got to look at next year. Obviously, you have JJ that's going to be a free agent in 2025. You want to get that extension probably this offseason or next offseason. And then you have probably another baseline contract in Christian Darrisaw. Not many people are talking about, who is showing himself to be one of the best, if not the best left tackle in the game for a young guy. And I think he models a lot of his game and his financial situations off of Trent Williams. So I really think that Darrisaw will set the market for left tackle as well. So you two market setters on your team. You need cap room, and I think we'll have that next year, depending on what we do with Kirk.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about, our cap situation next year and 2025 are looking pretty nice. Before we get back into that, I do have a little tidbit here about the Greg Joseph deal. It is a 1-year deal that, per his agent, is almost fully guaranteed. So
they've been doing a lot of guaranteed money.
Yeah, I think that's a good. I mean, Greg Joseph's obviously not going to be the long-term solution at kicker. He's a placeholder. That's what he's been most of his career. So
it does look like they added 2 more void years to Kirk Cousins' contract.
No, Isaac, is there a segment today, or can there be a segment where Mitch gives his craziest Vikings tank to rebuild from nothing scenario?
The tank for Caleb Williams scenario? Yeah, no, go for it. We can let's end it with that.
Mitch, I know you've been talking a lot about how the Vikings are in a tough situation, and the best play is to completely blow up this team, restart from the ashes, suck for a few years, and then make that big young run for the Super Bowl in the sort of future.
Tank is a word I would use two days ago, as you guys know. The way we've restructured and the way we've signed players today and yesterday, I don't think that a tank is what we're going for. Ironic, because we have Brian Flores on the team now, who was the coach of the tanking Miami Dolphins, and you're kind of
allegedly.
No, they were tanking.
Allegedly.
I just think that it's a quarterback league, and whoever has the best quarterback, you have a window. And if you have them on a rookie contract, it's even better. You're going to see teams. This is just a bold prediction. You're going to see teams like the Bengals, the Bills, the Chargers. You're even starting to see it this offseason with the Chiefs. You're losing a lot of key players on defense, your offensive line, and it's a trade-off. And if you want to pay a quarterback majority of your cap, majority meaning like 20 below 20%, you're gonna have to find young talent to surround them with. And the Chiefs did a really good job last season finding young talent in the draft and in free agency, where you're not breaking the bank for them, but you're surrounding them with weapons, i.e., Pat Mahomes winning the Super Bowl last year. So I just think that there's a window to win with quarterbacks in the current structure of their contracts. And what your quarterback is on your team kind of tells you what your team will be. And we saw it last year, in my opinion, with Kirk Cousins. He's a guy he's going to win you games, right? But he's never going to. We can debate this as long as we want, but history has shown he's not going to win you in the big games, the primetime games. He's not going to wow you in the playoffs. He's going to make really conservative decisions. And in my opinion, you can't win a Super Bowl with a conservative quarterback. So,
well, you could say that, but I don't think a conservative quarterback, generally, he does have times of being conservative, but he also has the biggest comeback in NFL history
against Jeff
I
Saturday
wouldn't
and
really
Colts,
associate
yes.
with conservatism.
Still an NFL
the
football
first overall pick, the Colts. So you could also argue they shouldn't have been in the situation to begin with.
That's true.
They went 13-4 with the
but also I think eight either one score or fourth quarter comeback wins or something like that this year, which was also a record.
I
one
think
score games, being almost undefeated in one score games, except for one that ended our season.
Well, you could also see 2 years ago, we were on the opposite side of that, right? So we were losing those one-score games, and it was driving us crazy. It was driving us crazy last year, being in one-score games.
Right.
There's only a certain amount us fans can take, and if we have another season like that, I don't know what's going to happen. I think Vikings fans lost 5 years of their life.
We need
last
to have
year.
some games where in the fourth quarter we're not about to have a heart attack.
Exactly. Yeah. And my last point I'll say on Kirk, I mean, he is a competent quarterback, which is something you need in this league. You can't have somebody out there slinging, 34 touchdowns, 34 interceptions, i.e., Jameis Winston. But I think getting young at the position is a key need. That's all I'm going to say. And I don't think this year's draft class is the solution. You could pull a Brock Purdy or someone in the late rounds, but I just and these talks about Trey Lance.
Problem is the difficulty with it, because the odds that you get a star quarterback in the draft maybe like once or twice per year, it may happen. So your odds of getting a star quarterback in the draft are like, I don't even know what those odds would be, but out of every single team, all their draft picks, you get one, maybe two really good young quarterbacks. And that's
and you have to hit
where you are in the draft, what else you need. There's just so many variables that makes that extremely hard. So sometimes you gotta, depending on your situation, think of other options as well.
Right. And of course I can say, let's tank and get the first overall pick, but who says that Caleb Williams is going to be a superstar? We've seen it on tape that he can be a superstar, but it's got to show itself in the NFL and the speed of the NFL. So
and how often is the number one or the number two draft pick like the superstar in the NFL? It doesn't happen nearly as much as you'd think.
Right.
Joe Burrow.
Exactly. Trevor Lawrence has shown flashes last year. There's a window. There's a window,
But
I mean, look at his rookie year, coach. The grind man himself.
Yeah.
The grinder.
Right. And I think that the Vikings are in a good spot with coaching. I think that Brian Flores is going to make it some more aggressive defense, getting away from the Donatell defense. And
Brian Flores and his
defense, Donatell's defense really upset me at times, and all Vikings
as they should have.
Sure.
As they should
have. It was brutal, and overly conservative, and I felt like we played like the biggest cushioned prevent defense on every single play in second halves. It was just absurd.
But yeah, just the last thing I'll say, and then I'll hand the ball off to you guys to finish it up. With the current restructure of what we're doing now and the competitive rebuild, I think we're honestly in a good spot. Hats off to Kwesi for making these moves and moving the team around to make it on paper. It looks like a solid team. We just need some pieces to fill holes of some of our favorite players in the past 10 years. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a culture shock in the locker room just with how many leaders we've lost, but it's a needed culture shock and it's a needed change that, the NFL is a business. It's not a family. Sometimes it's a family, but I think we're moving away from, teams saying you're going to be a lifer. So
I did want to touch on one thing, and we can talk about this more next time when there's actually official news. But Adam Thielen, he's been a legend for the Minnesota Vikings, so it'd be kind of interesting to follow where he's going. I know he's had talks with potentially the Chiefs, or he's visiting the Panthers, but nothing confirmed on that yet. But it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
I think we will see him with the Chiefs.
We shall see.
That's my prediction.
He'll take a little bit of a pay cut being Chiefs, but
I mean, yeah.
If you're gonna win, you're gonna win. So I hope he wins. He's there's that story. It's a movie. His career has been a movie.
He does like the warm weather though.
Yeah,
he's been
has
saying
a house
that.
in Florida.
Maybe he'll come to Jacksonville with me. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Just move half the Vikings over there. All right. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit here. We've been going at it quite a while. No need to drag it out. Cap it off with a good old rest in peace to Bud Grant's the greatest coach the Vikings have ever had. Way before our time, but it's setting up for a good old Vikings storyline here.
Yeah, this is the Bud season. So
it's what we're gonna hear about all year long.
Do it.
So why not?
And
why not do it?
I'm just gonna be that guy. Maybe
do I need to
the Bud curse is lifted.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Mitch, edit that out of here. Dear Lord.
I'm just saying.
That's messed
up. They won the Super Bowl when he's alive, so.
Well, they haven't made a Super Bowl without him being the coach, so.
It's true.
No,
we'll see what happens.
Super Bowl in our lifetime.
They haven't made the Super Bowl as long as Mitch has been alive. Do we need to make a sacrifice?
I think we should.
All right. It's because he's a ginger, isn't it?
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Stay tuned for future episodes of The Land of 10,000 Tears.